Welcome. My name is Stephanie Milner. I am a director of admissions for the NYU Stern Executive MBA team for New York and DC, both programs. I want to welcome you tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. A little overview of what's going to happen tonight. I'm going to take you through a presentation with all the details about the program and how to apply. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions. I'll probably answer them all at the end. You can feel free to add any questions to the Q&A, and I will definitely get to them. Just a little bit about me. I have been at Stern about 12 years now. In addition to admissions, my team does marketing as well, and we work in conjunction with the operations team. Some of you may have already interacted with some of my peers and colleagues, but again, we're really happy to welcome you here tonight. And our goal this evening is to tell you what's unique about the NYU Stern Executive MBA program, answer all your questions, like I said, and help you understand whether the Executive MBA program is the good fit for you. Oops, sorry. Things acted a little slow. There we go. Whoops. Okay, now we're getting started. So there's 2 start terms each calendar year in New York. There's one in January and one in August. Each class has a cohort of about 60 students. We refer to that as the cohort, and although 60 students start the program all together at the beginning of each term. It takes about 22 months of coursework to complete the Executive MBA program. It's 24 months on a calendar, really, but if you take breaks and things like that into account, it's about 22 months of coursework. The typical class schedule is that classes meet every other Friday and Saturday. Class days run from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., so it does require a full commitment during the day. And I'll explain more about our schedule in a little while. There's 2 required residencies, both take place in year 1. The first one is orientation. It takes place 1 week at the beginning of the program. The whole class comes together. It's a full orientation, lots of getting to know you. You meet your classmates, your classes start there. It typically takes place at a location around New York City, either in Westchester or Long Island typically. And it's a real way to jump into the program and get everyone on the same page. The other required residency is the Global Immersion Experience, which is part of the core curriculum. I'll be explaining more about that in a little while. At the end of all that, you achieve an MBA in General Management from NYU Stern. And really, whether you complete an MBA through the Executive MBA program at Stern, the full-time program, the part-time Langone program, the outcome is all the same. All program graduates earn an MBA in General Management from NYU Stern, and Executive MBA students earn the same number of credits as the full-time and part-time students. So academic excellence is the cornerstone of NYU Stern and the Executive MBA program. Our curriculum is really designed to give a strong foundation, but also the opportunity to pursue your own passions and interests. So it all starts in year 1 with the core curriculum. That's the foundation I was talking about. And it covers all the key areas of business administration, including management, marketing, accounting, statistics, strategy, to really round out your skills and also to prepare you for electives. Like I said, the core curriculum is covered all in the first year of the program, and it's taken with the cohort you start with at the beginning of the program. These are really just areas that we study that you could see in the core curriculum column. There's full course descriptions available on our website. In the second year of the program, you focus on elective courses, and it's the opportunity to build on the foundation you created in year 1 and then go deeper into advanced topics in subject areas, or simply just explore different aspects of different disciplines that are interesting to you. Also in the second year, students will take classes with other second-year Executive MBA students, so you're mixing up the classroom experience and it expands your network at the same time. Through the electives and the electives that you choose, you can declare up to 3 specializations. You could see a list of some of our more popular specializations on the screen right now. To declare a specialization, you need to earn 9 credits in each of these subject areas. You can see that specializations are in key subject areas rather than industry focused, so that they can be applied to almost any role or function. Your decision to pursue specializations is as flexible as the areas of study. You can choose electives based on specializations that you want to achieve. You can just pursue electives that are of interest to you and find out at the end that you are eligible for that specialization and declare it at the end. So it's really up to you how you want to tailor the MBA to your career goals. And like I said, at the end, all students achieve an MBA in general management from NYU Stern. The specializations don't tailor the degree. They really just tailor the academic focus that you might have in the program. So I said I'd talk more about the global immersion experience. It's the international residency, and it provides exposure to other global business centers. Each global immersion experience, or GIE as we refer to it, is a 4-credit course led by faculty. So the first year trip is required for all students, as I said, as a formal part of the core curriculum. But there is an optional elective in the second year to do another a global immersion experience, where you'll go on another study and touring experience. But that would be with other members of other second-year student cohorts, and that's totally optional. So if you don't want to travel or are unable to travel in the second year, that's not required. The GIEs are really also an opportunity to build community within the cohort and have more time with your peers and other students in their program in a longer format learning experience out of the classroom. The faculty are accompanying the class to sort of keep everything you're learning on the ground in context. These are just some examples of some places our students have been. We just had a class come back from Tokyo. There was a trip recently to Poland. So we're always trying to expand our footprint, and it's a great way to really get a feet on the ground experience in another business culture. But at the same time, the good news is that you don't have to travel too far to get a meaningful perspective on business culture, because we are right in the heart of New York City, and we leverage New York City, its resources, its real world experiences right in the classroom and in a variety of events that bring new perspective to the NYU Stern Executive MBA program and our students, as well as unique exposure to innovative high-level thinkers that may come to speak on campus that your faculty may bring into the classroom. So it's a great way to sort of learn globally, but while you're local, but also while you're traveling. And of course, it's our faculty that bring it all to life. This is Professor Sonia Marciano in action with our executive MBA students. She teaches a strategy course. And Stern has one of the largest and best faculties in the world. They're leading experts in their field who consult to top companies and international organizations. They've launched businesses. They've done lots of research. They're published. They're quoted in the paper. So it's really a top-notch learning experience. Our faculty teach specific skills, but also a broader perspective on the role of business. So they're emphasizing the practical and also the big picture on around all the concepts that they teach. The faculty who teach in the Executive MBA program are drawn from the same faculty who teach in the full-time and Langone part-time MBA programs, but they really have to be selected and invited to teach in the Executive MBA program based on their experience teaching at the executive level. Really, given the diversity and depth of experience in the Executive MBA student body, and I go into more about what that looks like in a moment, and the intimacy of the program in a classroom with 60 or fewer students, some of the electives end up being smaller groups, the faculty are prepared for the level of analysis and discussion that takes place in the classroom. And our small cohort size creates the opportunity to really get to know the faculty and develop relationships with them, if you like, as part of developing your overall professional network. You can see a list of the current NYU Stern faculty who teach in our program on our website if you're interested in learning more about their backgrounds and their teaching experience. The other thing I would say is that the faculty design the curriculum with sort of a real-time application of skills in mind. So while I would never promise anyone that everything you learn on a Friday and Saturday in the classroom is applicable on Monday, the learning should be tangible and applicable right away if necessary and if it's helpful to you on the job. So the depth and breadth of our faculty and their expertise is reflected in our ability to offer a well-rounded curriculum. So I mentioned I'd talk a little bit more about our student body. So let's take a closer look at the people you could expect to see in an executive MBA cohort, or to meet in an executive MBA cohort, I should say. One of the hallmarks of the typical executive MBA class is diversity. We seek experienced professionals from lots of different industries with a variety of professional and academic experiences. The depth and breadth of experiences in the classroom creates a unique peer learning environment, and students share insights on different market insights that they have, industry and business issues that they're facing at the same time you're learning, which really shapes the discussion and sometimes debate in the classroom, but it's a great way to get an understanding of what's going on in people who are maybe working in different functions or different industries than your own. And while this is a typical class profile, there's really no one typical executive MBA student. Our students come from the world of business, but also medicine, law, not-for-profit, the arts. We've had concert pianists, journalists, politicians, designers, as well as bankers and marketers and accountants, all successfully complete the program and work well alongside each other. And they've all contributed to the classroom experience. We often get asked, I don't know if this is the right fit for me, what could I bring to a classroom? But I can assure you that, we've had pretty much one of anything you could imagine complete the program successfully. So this is a typical class profile. This is actually an average of our last few cohorts. So every specific cohort might be a little bit different, but on average, the average age is 37, and that translates to about 13 years of work experience and about 7 years of management experience, and that's people management experience. About 33% have an international background, which by our definition means that they were primarily educated outside the US and have significant international work experience. So they're bringing that perspective and global experience to the classroom. About 25% have all previously earned advanced degrees. So that might be medicine, it might be law, different masters of arts and sciences in different subjects. So really just, demonstrating the level of expertise in the classroom in their various areas. And in terms of gender split, we're about 37% female, which is a number we're really proud of. We're always trying to grow that number as much as we can, but that's actually much higher than the industry average for executive MBA programs. So we're proud of that. You can see some of the typical industries. About a quarter of our students come from financial services. Given Stern's reputation and location, it's not that surprising, and the historical correlation with financial services and an MBA. However, what that translates to is that about 75% of our students are from outside financial services. And you can see the range of industries that they come from. There's lots of different functions within each of these industries that we're showing. But again, it's just to demonstrate, right from day one, you're expanding your network. So the diversity of experience in the executive MBA cohort translates into our study groups. Cross-functional and cross-departmental teams often work together in the workplace, sharing ideas and sharing projects and executing things together. And we're replicating that experience to help you learn from your classmates and further develop your teamwork and leadership skills. So in year one, all students are assigned to study groups. Each group is made up of 4 to 6 students. It may vary with cross-functional skills, so that you can support and learn from each other. Each different class in the core curriculum might utilize the study groups in a different way or to a different extent. The groups are never officially disbanded in year 2. However, as you start to choose your own electives, you're not necessarily choosing them with your whole study group. So they're always sort of together in spirit, if not in the classroom, but in the first year, the study groups are utilized by all the core curriculum professors. So this is what a typical day in the program might look like. I mentioned a little bit about sort of the structure of the program. We have a modular format that we follow in the program. We recognize that your schedule is already packed. You have demanding full-time jobs, personal life, and now you're adding a rigorous MBA program to the mix. And we structure the program to help you manage that balancing act. So in terms of the schedule, we ask students to focus on 2 courses at a time during the typical class weekend. This allows our students to really focus on 2 subjects, master them, immerse themselves in them, and then move on to some other subject and then build on what they learned from the previous class. So how this basically works is that at the beginning and the end, you can see breakfast and evening events. Those are typically optional, but they are included as part of the class day. So you can see the longer blue bars. There's a class 1 and class 2 class 1 sessions with a break in between. Each class 1 session is about 90 minutes. So there's about 3 hours each of 2 different classes during a class day. So you have 90 minutes of class, take a break, another 90 minutes of class, and then there's lunch, and the same in the afternoon for a different class. Lunch and the breaks and breakfast are all included in tuition. No one goes hungry at NYU Stern, I can assure you of that. Sometimes lunch is just lunch. It's a great way to get together with your study group or talk to other people in your cohort. All our cohorts have lunch at the same time, so it's a great way to sort of network and meet other students in the program. And faculty typically join for lunch as well. So, you know, sometimes there might be an event or a speaker at lunch. Sometimes lunch is just lunch, but it's a great way to sort of engage, you know, with Stern and with other students during the course of the day. So NYU Stern has built the program to allow you to focus on being a student. Again, in the same idea as providing lunch and breakfast. There's no running around. Where am I going to get lunch? Do I have time? We bring all that in-house. We try to take away a lot of the busy work associated with being a student in school. And this, in our program, it's really all made possible by our dedicated student services team. They provide a high level of support. They know each student personally. They're always available to answer questions. They try to manage most of the logistics of being a student for you so that your time is spent focusing on your education and your experience at Stern. Books and study materials are delivered on class days. There's no trips to the bookstore saying, oh, I forgot something, I've got to go and get it. It's usually there and provided for you. And essentially, they provide a single point of contact into the school and the university to help navigate all the systems you would need as a student. So students come to the Executive MBA program, obviously, to enhance their knowledge and business expertise and equip themselves with the tools they need to get where they want to go. So as part of that, we do provide a suite of professional development services. Within the careers office at NYU Stern, we offer access to the working professionals team. They're dedicated to helping you develop long-term career plans. So whether you're looking to advance in your industry, transition careers, or start a new business, the working professionals team coaches can serve as partners and help you identify and really put a voice around your professional goals, fine-tune your resume, hone your interview skills, develop your pitch, utilize your network, and more. They offer a range of online resources and tools for executive MBA students, and you can access them 24/7, but the core of what they offer is really this one-on-one career coaching. They can do it in person, they can do it via Zoom. So it's whatever works on your schedule. Access to the career coaching begins on day one when students matriculate into the Executive MBA program, and they continue basically forever after you've graduated as a long-term benefit to all graduates of Stern. Students and alumni can develop a customized career strategy through the one-on-one meetings. And then you can basically use all the tools in the online hub to support the plans that you've made with the career coaches. They also do some programming, executive recruiter or industry panels, which can discuss how to network or make, you know, advancements in your career. You know, they've recently had panels on management consulting, private equity, digital marketing. So people with insights into those industries in case students are interested in learning more about them or maybe transitioning into them. And like I said, sometimes lunch is just lunch, but the careers team also, the working professionals team also offers lunch and learns, which just as they sound, take place during lunch. They'll bring in current students or alumni from certain industries or companies or certain specific skill sets to meet with students and provide an insider's view. They might have, you know, other lunchtime speakers speaking about things like making a first impression or the road to the C-suite. So lots of different ways to get information and really a lot of thought starters on how to advance your career. But then for further professional development, there's the NYU Stern Alumni Network. All NYU Stern MBA students have access to the Stern Success Network, which is our online hub for making connections to over 110,000 Stern alumni in over 80 countries. That's also a subset of the greater NYU network, which is more than 500,000 strong. And again, like the services, career services rather, the access to the network begins on day one as soon as students matriculate into the program for networking, for connections, for informational interviews. There's also other events around meeting alumni and things like that that are available to students as well through the Alumni Relations Department. And you can also take advantage as part of your professional development, our lifelong education opportunities. NYU Stern alumni are eligible for 2 tuition-free in-person executive certificate courses per academic year. basically forever, and a 50% discount on any additional courses, and a 50% discount on all online certificate programs. So if there's something you didn't get to study during the course of the program, or maybe there's a new skill or develop, understanding of a certain aspect of business you want to understand, that's a great way to do it. Stern is obviously committed to always being a learner, and this is a great way we can support our graduates to keep on going in that way. So tuition for the current academic year, which runs from September 2024 through August 2025, is $226,100. It's a fully inclusive number. That's a total cost for the program. It includes many incidentals associated with the programs. You could see them all on the screen: books, materials, everything for the global immersion experiences, except for airfare and a few incidentals. Airfare is not included, but all on, everything pretty much on the ground when you get to the destination is included. All the fees, again, except for travel associated with orientation residency, class day meals, any fees, all our online resources, the dedicated executive MBA support is included, the lifelong learning and alumni benefits. And another way that we provide balance for our students who live a little bit further away is to provide accommodations on class weekends. If you live at least 40 miles away, based on your address to Stern's address at 44 West 4th Street, based on Google Maps, you'll be eligible for our accommodations policy. People who live between 40 and 80 miles away are eligible for 1 night free accommodation, and people who live 80 miles or more are eligible for 2 nights accommodation. So you could come in on Thursday night to be there for class on Friday and stay over Friday for class on Saturday. We don't own the hotel. We partner with them. It's not a dorm. It's an actual hotel not far from the NYU campus. And again, we provide that as a courtesy to people who live a little bit further away. Like I said, and also, as mentioned, class day meals are included as well: breakfast and lunch, and also anything at snack time, as well as all meals associated with residencies as well, with the exception of a few meals during the global immersion experiences when people go out on their own. I would like to point out that this is the tuition for the current academic year. Tuition is subject to change each academic year, and we recommend budgeting for an increase of anywhere between 3% and 7%. So cost is obviously a really important consideration when you're thinking about an executive MBA program. So we provide a few different avenues of financial support. Stern has a dedicated graduate financial aid team dedicated to Stern graduate students and committed to helping you finance your MBA. Most students fund some of their education through loans. If you're a US citizen or a permanent resident, we recommend you start the free application for federal student aid, commonly known as the FAFSA, as soon as possible. You can go to fafsa.gov to begin the federal loan process. You upload a few tax returns, and essentially it could let you know what you're eligible for. You can't draw down a loan until you've been accepted and enrolled into a graduate program. However, you could find out what you're eligible for, and that could help you start the budgeting process. For anyone who may have taken out loans as an undergraduate, it's the exact same process. And in addition, you can always access the financial aid website, which you can see on the screen, to begin research on any available options for lenders or any other scholarship opportunities that may be possible outside of Stern. In terms of scholarships, from the admissions committee, we do offer merit-based scholarships for executive MBA students. Unfortunately, full tuition scholarships are not offered, but to be eligible for consideration, you just have to complete within the formal application, you just have to check the box that you'd like to be considered for scholarships. And then the admissions committee will take your whole application into account as part of the consideration as a demonstration of merit. So anyone who indicates they'd like to be considered for one will be reviewed for a one-time merit-based reward, typically ranging from around $5,000 to $15,000. Students will automatically be hired, the highest monetary award for which they qualify. And there's really no specific set of criteria that guarantees an award. Like I said, we take all aspects of your formal application and your work history into consideration. And as mentioned, all scholarships are one-time awards and are applied towards year 1 tuition payment. So they essentially act as a tuition reduction. And for students who asked for a scholarship, if you're awarded one, and when you're admitted to the program, that's when you'd find out, so you have the full understanding of what you might be receiving when you're considering enrolling in the program with your offer of admission. So to take the next step, we need to explain a little bit more about how to apply to the Executive MBA program. Our process is straightforward, but it's also very personal. It's also holistic. And by that, I mean, there's not one part of an application typically that'll make or break your candidacy. We try to take everything into account. Everyone's coming to the program with different experiences and different years of work experience and different educational background. So there's not one cookie cutter approach that we take to evaluating students and their ability to be successful in the program. So we really recommend that you focus on the entire story that you're telling the admissions committee, as opposed to being super focused on one element of the application. So we have a two-step application process. The first step is the pre-assessment, which some of you may have already completed. It's really a way for you to raise your hand and tell us that you're interested in the program. There's no fee, it's free, which is great. It takes 10 or 15 minutes to complete. You answer a few questions about yourself, your education, your work experience. You upload a current resume. And also on that form, you have to indicate that you meet our two prerequisites to be considered for the program, and in order to move forward with the application process. So our two prerequisites are that you hold a bachelor's degree or its equivalent from any accredited US or international university, and that you have a minimum of 6 years full-time work experience when you're applying to the program. We'll review your pre-assessment and then reach out to you to clear you for the next step in the process, which is the actual application. There's a number of different components. I'm going to walk through through all of them, excuse me. But once your pre-assessment has been screened and approved, you're welcome to move forward with the application. You can do it in any order you like. It's the first thing that we look for are required essays. There's 2 of them. We dictate the topics. We ask for about a 500-word response to each. There's 2 required, as I said. There's also an optional 3rd essay, which is a great place to explain anything you think might need more context or anything you'd like to clarify for the admissions committee. So if it's personal or professional or academic and maybe something that doesn't fit other places, or maybe you want to explain some things on your work history, that's a great place to do it. But again, that is optional. The next thing on the list is transcripts. We require transcripts for all degrees you have earned. We don't need proof of any professional certifications or certifications that you, or non-degree coursework you may have completed if you took other executive education courses. Again, we don't need those transcripts unless you'd like to share it with us. You can submit official transcripts at the time of your application, but you can also upload a scanned copy just for the purposes of review. If you're admitted, you will need to provide us with sealed official transcripts from your university. So we encourage you to order those sooner rather than later, just so that there's time to receive them from your university. For people who maybe attended an international university, you can either speak to our office or discuss during the interview, which is another thing I'm going to talk about, what your options might be if you don't have formal transcripts available. We require 2 letters of recommendation. Both should be professional, one from a current supervisor and one ideally from a past supervisor. Essentially, we're looking for people who were able to evaluate your work experience and also your contribution to the organization you were working with. The next step is the interview. You can do that at any point in the process once you've cleared the pre-assessment. It's a unique element of our process in that we want to give you the opportunity to meet with a member of the admissions committee and get to know you better and get all your questions answered about Stern and see if it's the right fit for you, and also to help a member of the admissions committee understand you more as a person, so that when the admissions committee is going through all the paper and required documentation from a formal application, there's someone there who's actually met the person and sort of can speak to, sort of the real life assessment. The interview lasts about a half hour. We do ask that you approach it as a work interview in a formal fashion. After the interview is completed, you would have the option to sign up for a class visit, just to let you know. We do ask people to interview first before they attend a class visit. It allows you to come to campus when class is in session and attend part of a morning or afternoon class. You meet current students, see the faculty in action, and it's a great way to get a sense of the culture at Stern and see if it's a good fit for you. There's two optional parts of the application as well. One is a sponsorship form. It's a great tool to work with your company. It outlines the time commitment required for the program, if that's a useful tool for you to speak to your organization. It also gives your organization an opportunity to indicate any financial sponsorship you might be eligible for. There's two types of sponsorship. One, again, is the time commitment, and that's really where you make an agreement with your company that you'll be that you'll be cleared to or released from work responsibilities is probably the best way to think about it, on the days where you'll be required to be at residencies and typical class days on Fridays. For most people, it's Fridays is part of the time commitment. So again, it might be a great way to sort of have that all outlined on paper. The other kind of sponsorship is financial sponsorship, which is when your employer contributes financially to your education. That is absolutely optional. Whether or not you're sponsored financially by your organization will not be part of the consideration for an application. Obviously, it's great if you can get it, but also that form is a place for the company to indicate that that's something that they're able to help you with, either partially or fully. In terms of standardized tests, a GMAT, a GRE, or an executive assessment is not necessary to be submitted. If you've taken the test or plan to take the test and you're happy with your score, ultimately you can send it to us as further demonstration of academic preparedness for the program. But in the absence of that score, we take a close look at transcripts and at work experience to demonstrate academic readiness for the program. For people who might be a little bit worried that maybe they're not prepared, maybe for some of the math or the quantitative courses, we would always recommend taking maybe an online or in-person course in general finance or different areas, maybe to prepare. But again, we're happy to answer questions about that during the interview, or you can always call our office if you need sort of some input on that front. There is an application fee of $175, but as a thank you for joining us tonight, you will be getting an application fee waiver, which would allow you to submit a formal application for free. So keep an eye on that in your email after the event. Once we receive all of these materials, you'll get an email from us just confirming your application is complete, and we follow rolling admissions. So what that means is that we don't wait until the deadlines to review applications all at once. We review them as they become complete during the cycle. So currently our deadlines, if you're looking to start in January, our next starting point is January 2025. We're sort of in between our deadlines right now. The first one was September 15th. Our final deadline is October 15th. We do give preference to applications that are completed by the deadline, but we do usually keep the application open, and we review applications on a rolling space available basis post the deadline. So if maybe you're new to the process and you're thinking you would still like to start in January, I would definitely encourage you to start the process and move forward, because our team can work with you to help make that happen if that's the time you're interested in starting. The next starting point after that is August 2025, and the deadlines for that start are March 1st and then May 15th. So the cycle is a little bit longer. You actually currently can apply to January or August right now, but again, we're giving priority to January applications since that's coming up faster. And again, it's rolling. So whenever you get that email from us indicating that your application is complete, that email also starts the clock ticking on the review period by the admissions committee. And we generally get back to people within about 3 weeks of the date of that email with a decision. For students who are admitted to the program, if you choose to enroll, there is a required $5,000 non-refundable deposit, which is obviously net from tuition, that's required to hold your seat. We also have some other upcoming events. You can look at them on our website. If you're interested, we have student panels coming up. There's an in-person session coming up in a few weeks on campus. We also we just completed a women's panel, which is available online. So there's a lot of different ways to sort of interact with our students, whether in person or online. And it's a great way to get more information about the program and assess fit and get all your questions answered. So these are all the different ways you could contact us. I mentioned a few times, if you have questions, you could reach out to us, you can email us, you can call. We're available from 9 to 5 during the week. We also hope that you can find a lot of your answers on our website, which probably most of you have visited. And if you don't already, please follow us on social. We're always posting about events like this, updates on our students and our faculty. So it's a great way to sort of hear what's the latest and greatest with the program. And we did get a few questions. So let me go through them. Sorry, I'm just reading as I go, so bear with me. So the first one is, how long is the global immersion experience? Good question. I'm sorry I didn't mention that earlier. So it's a week. So typically it runs from either a Sunday night or Monday through a Saturday. So most people travel, they bookend the weekends and travel. Some people actually stay longer. They try to turn it into more of a travel experience if they're going to be in a part of the world they haven't seen. So, and that's another reason we let people book their own airfare, so that if you want to travel before or after the global immersion experience, you're welcome to do that on your own and not worry about being confined to whatever dates we put out. The destination for the global immersion experience is typically announced at orientation, and the dates are published way in advance so you can clear your schedule for work and also start to arrange airfare or any other plans you might have. The next question is about the MBA faculty. Is the executive MBA faculty the same as the MBA faculty? They overlap a bit. It's not everyone who teaches in the MBA program teaches in the executive MBA program, and vice versa. A lot of our faculty teach in the MBA program, they teach in the part-time program, they teach PhD students in different subjects. So it's a wide range, but again, not everyone who teaches in one program teaches in another. But again, you can see a full list of our current faculty across all our subject areas, both core and elective courses, on our website. So someone's asking for clarification about the tuition. So the 226,100 is for the full degree. So if it's the full 22 months, and typically payments are spread out in 4 or 6 payments. I don't dictate that, the bursar does, and it changes sometimes. So, but typically it's quarterly. And so that would be, so the $5,000 deposit would be net out from that. And then the balance would be paid basically quarterly across the 2 years of the program. So that's a total number for the full 2 years. Someone's asking if they're too young to apply. We're not really looking at age so much in the program as much as full-time work experience. So if you have a minimum of 6 years full-time work experience, that sort of sets the floor for consideration. The age range in the program, like I said, the average is 37. But that's because our floor is probably around 28, 29, and then it goes to well over 50 because we're more interested in work experience rather than age. So I would say for people who are not interested in a full-time program and maybe the structure of the part-time program doesn't work for you, then I would say executive MBA could be a really great fit. Really quick question, tuition remission for NYU employees typically does not apply to the executive MBA program. It's typically applicable to the Langone part-time program. There have been a few exceptions in the past. That's very much dictated usually by your supervisor or what school that you work in. So in general, we like to tell people that tuition remission is really reserved for the Langone part-time program. And that's only applicable to employees of NYU, but that was a question, so it might not apply to everyone listening, but definitely wanted to answer. Sorry, I'm scrolling through the list. So there's a couple of questions about acceptance rate. We don't publish an acceptance rate, and part of the reason that we do that is because of our rolling admission. So we don't really have a hard, here's how many applications we got, here's how many students we let in, because we have rolling admissions and we have more than one cycle open at any given time. We have people right now who are applying to start in January 2025. We have people who are applying to start in August 2025, and even some people who might be looking further out at starting in January 26. So it's really a moving number for us. So the math doesn't always work out. I will say that I think our admissions rates are probably really in line with the executive MBA admission rates that are probably available online as an industry average. So I think that's probably a pretty good indicator. But generally, executive MBA programs versus things like full-time programs or undergraduate programs don't typically have an acceptance rate published. There's another question about acceptance rate for those who submit test scores versus those who don't. Because it's fully optional, and again, we don't really have acceptance rates that we publish, but because it's fully optional, I would say the vast majority of people who apply to the program don't submit scores. I think for people who might be applying to other programs that require test scores and maybe, or were happy with their score, and maybe they took the test a year or two ago and it's still valid and they didn't get around to applying, then I think it's a great way that you can demonstrate further academic preparedness for the program. But again, it's not something we're looking for. So we don't really separate people who submit them and people who don't. But I will say, without attaching a number to it, that the vast majority of our students don't provide us with any sort of standardized test score, either a GMAT or GRE or EA. Can you reapply if you aren't accepted the first go around? Yes, we have a very, if you reapply within a year, you don't have to redo your application. We do ask for an updated resume in case there's any change, and there's an additional essay you need to complete, basically to let us know like anything new that we should be considering, or sort of where you're at career-wise or goals-wise, maybe versus the original application. And we do require a second interview with a different member of the admissions committee than you would have met the first time. So there's a few things we ask people to do to reapply, but it's definitely, but we can reuse transcripts, we can reuse recommendations. People are welcome to submit an additional recommendation if they'd like. But again, we can reuse sort of all of those materials and then just add in those additional elements to for a reapplication. If you interview, if you reapply more than a year out from your initial application, we do require that you start the process again. Yeah, so there's a good question about expected time spent studying outside of class. So typically we tell people to budget about 10 hours per week. So that's about 20 hours total between class weekends. I think that's an average, and it ebbs and flows a little bit. I think it depends on the two subjects that you're studying at the time. If one is something that you're more familiar with, or maybe studied in depth in a different program, in an undergrad program, or maybe it's part of what you do day to day at work, you may not have to dig in quite as hard as you might have to if you were learning a subject from scratch that you never studied, or maybe studied 15 years ago or don't use on a day-to-day basis. So I would say that's about an average. And I would also say that those 20 hours in between class weekends could be doing reading, preparing for the next class, working on a paper that's due, getting in a Zoom with your study group and working on a collaborative project, or going through something. Maybe it's attending an online review session with a teaching assistant and things like that. So it's not necessarily you sitting there grinding through a book on your own. It takes lots of different forms, but we do estimate about 10 hours of work per week. I think as people start the program, the great thing is that everyone in your class is sort of figuring out their schedule. A lot of people try, and some people come and go into their office or get up early and do some work. Some people do it all on that weekend in between. People who travel tend to bring their books with them, because being on airplanes and trains is a great place to get some of that work done. So I think people get into a rhythm of it, but again, I do think it ebbs and flows a little bit, but that's based on feedback from our students. That's typically what we tell people to budget for. Is passing step one? Oh, good question. So just to be clear, step one of our pre-assessment is evaluative in the sense that we want to make sure, only in the sense that we want to make sure people are meeting our prerequisites, which I mentioned are having a bachelor's degree and and 6 years of full-time work experience. So it's not evaluative in the sense of your in terms of being potentially accepted to the program. So it's really just making sure you're eligible to apply to the program. So I would say that the step 2, which is really the formal application itself and all the components that I went through, including the interview, is the evaluative part of the process. The pre-assessment really is just a way for you to raise your hand and sort of start the process and show that you're eligible to apply to the program, but it's not evaluative in that way. So that's a great question. Thanks for that. Yes, you can still fill out a FAFSA for the January 2025 start for sure. I would do it sooner rather than later. But it's, because it is the government after all with some red tape, but yes, you can definitely still do that. Is it possible to schedule classes only on Saturdays? Unfortunately not. I'm sorry to say no to that one. Our schedule is based on every other Friday and Saturday schedule. So it does, in addition to the residency weeks I mentioned, so it does require that time off of work. I will say that the Langone part-time program is very flexible in that way. You can do nights and or weekends. They do have a Saturday only program, and they also have a hybrid program, which uses a lot of online time that typically takes place, and all of their courses typically take place outside of regular work hours. So that may be another option to get an MBA from Stern if the format of the executive MBA program doesn't work for you. Sorry, I'm just going through the list again just to see, make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, there's a couple of questions from people asking about sort of healthcare. I would say that generally our program is designed for people from all different industries and functions. We try not to focus too much on any specific industry. That said, I would say that there's usually electives in a broad sense, meaning like not super specific to any one industry. So there might be an elective around the business of healthcare or venture capital or real estate and things like that. But because we have students who come from such a diverse background of industries and functions, we're always trying to structure the executive MBA program in a way that's more as applicable to as many people as possible. So we don't really tailor too much to specific industry. I do think that in terms of the peer group for things like healthcare or any other industry, there's usually a like-minded group of students. Within executive MBA program, there are student interest groups, which are sort of unofficial clubs. Clubs at NYU Stern have to go through a very rigorous formal process, which I won't bore you with the process, but that said, we have sort of informal clubs, which are student interest groups. There's actually one within the program around healthcare, and those are students who either work in that industry or are interested in that industry. They share information, they might have their own speakers. So there's definitely opportunities sort of in an ad hoc way within different industries. There's one around blockchain and crypto and things like that. So there's always different ones sort of popping up. There's also ones more around personal interests as well. So there's lots of different ways to make connections with like-minded executive MBA students. But again, I think that our approach with electives and specializations is to keep them more business area focused as opposed to industry focused. I think those are all the questions. A question about accommodations. Yes, if you live more than 40 miles away from campus, so 40.0, nothing less than 40, I'm sorry, can't be considered. So based on Google Maps, if from your home address to our office address at 44 West 4th Street, if you're 40 miles or more, you're eligible for accommodations, and that's included as a courtesy to people in tuition, so you don't pay extra for it, correct? Sorry, someone just submitted, I'm reading through a question about career services. Yeah, this is a really good question, sort of tied to career services. So typically students in full-time programs are, they stop working for 2 years and they reinvent their career coming out of the program. And a lot of people do that to pivot. Some people go back to their own industry, but people do make bigger career transitions coming out of full-time programs. So this question is really around how do we support students maybe looking to make bigger career changes. So I will say that typically within the executive MBA program, yes, students are looking to make a lateral move or progress within their own industry. But I also think that as people move up in their career, and people coming to our program have a minimum of 6 years full-time work experience. And as you do more in your job, sometimes you basically end up doing more of what you're good at versus being given different opportunities to try new things or to really shuffle the deck on your skill set. So an MBA program is really a great way to help do that. I think it demonstrates a certain skill set that you might have that maybe just your work experience doesn't necessarily display for either your current employer or other employers. So I do think a lot of people are coming to the program to complement the skill set that they've gained at work or maybe from previous degrees with a new skill set from an executive MBA program to repackage themselves. So I think a big career transition is might be a little bit of a relative term, but I think in terms of big career transition, maybe you're talking about pivoting to a completely different industry, to a completely different career. That is definitely possible. It's very different for executive MBA students than it is for full-time students. Full-time students on average have around 5 years of work experience, and the average in our program is more than twice that. So if you're going to look to pivot a career, it might take more steps. It might take a longer time to gain some different work experience to go in that direction. The working professionals team in our careers office, which I referenced earlier, is very well prepared to have those conversations with people and sort of support them in the work involved. One of the more popular annual events that the careers team, the working professionals team hosts, is our pivot panel. And they bring in executive MBA students and graduates who have successfully pivoted in their career and sort of talk through what that process was like and how they use the support services available at NYU Stern to make that happen. So I think that anything is possible. I think like anything else, like in looking for a job or making connections and what does my resume look like? And, and what kind of, do I need different work experience? It's not, is it going to be a hard pivot or is it going to be sort of a soft pivot and sort of make my way into a different position? I think those are all the things that need to be considered. And I think our working professionals team can help support that. I should point out that most of what our working professionals team provides is really support in ways to self-manage your career. There is, if you follow a very specific program, some executive MBA students might be eligible to participate in on-campus recruiting, which is typically reserved for full-time students. There is a specific program that needs to be followed in terms of becoming eligible to get into that process. So it's not for everyone, and it may not even be applicable to the interest that you have. But typically the career coaches are working with people in a more one-on-one basis and sort of helping them point themselves in their direction. So that's a very long answer to say, yes, typically people are not looking to make really hard pivots and big transitions coming out of the executive MBA program because they're not looking to start over, but there's certainly a number of people who are and people who have done it successfully. So we're able to support all of those things. And I think that's all the questions. In terms of average salary increase for people pre and post, we don't have those numbers typically. I wish that we did. It would rely a lot on our graduates sort of reporting back to us. We don't always get that information from them, so we don't really have numbers that make, that are statistically significant, I would say, on that. I do think that it's fair to say that I would say within 3 to 5 years of graduating the program, on average, people find that they're sort of at the salary level and the kind of position that they'd want to be in. Sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower. And per the previous question, I think it depends how hard a shift you're trying to make in your career. Some things take longer than others. So no, unfortunately, we don't have data on pre and post salary in our program. And then this will be the last question about booking a one-on-one phone call with a member of the admissions committee. Our system is being reworked. That's why it's no longer on the website right now. But if you reach out to our office via email or leave or call, you may have to leave a voicemail, someone will get back to you. We'd be happy to set something up so that you can connect with a member of the admissions team, or questions can typically be answered if you attend an in-person event. There's always a member of the admissions team there that you can ask questions of. or you can wait until your interview. Any of those things are welcome. So we're a little bit over time. Thank you for sticking around with me. I appreciate it. Like I said, please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or need more information, or join us at another upcoming event. If you haven't already, please submit a pre-assessment. We'd love to get to know you and see if the NYU Stern program is the right fit for you. And thank you so much for joining me tonight. Have a great evening.